It is the battle of the idiots on Tuesday night as Derby County take on Norwich City at Pride Park Stadium. Two teams who have had pretty poor starts to the year in considering what they wanted to do this season and the money spent and things like that. And I think when you look at both Derby County and Norwich City, the performances just have not been there from either team. Now, obviously, it's going to be an interesting game. We will be live on Tuesday for a pre-match waiting room. Will be live tonight on Monday night to discuss Derby County and John Eustace and what could be happening next. So if you haven't done so already, hit like, hit subscribe and turn on that notification bell because we're going to be discussing it all later on today. Now, obviously for Derby County, there's big question marks over the management of John Eustace, and the way this is going to go, I think, determines on these home fixtures across the course of the next few weeks as we head into the next international break. And I think a lot of it is going to come down to whether John Eustace can pick up a couple of wins at home. Because if he picks up a couple of wins at home, he brings back the fans. If he doesn't, then we're in a huge problem. Now, Derby County will probably play a 4-2-3-1. At the weekend, they played Zetterstrom, Johnston, Sanderson, Clark, Forsyth, Adams, Ozo, Burton Diaz, Brewster, Vyman and Morris. And obviously, the biggest and the worst injury news that Derby County have got is that Lewis Travis is out for the next 6 weeks. We will have a full injury review out on Tuesday, and potentially a press reaction should John Eustace do his usual press. I'm obviously not sure if they will or not, but ultimately Derby County are in the shit. Norwich City, on the other hand, also play a 4-2-3-1. Kovacic in goal, Schlupp, Darling, Medic and Stacey as the back four. Matson and McLean in midfield with Markiondes as the 10. Jurassic on the right, Swartzu on the left and Sargent up front. But ultimately, they've not had a great start to the championship season either. If we go and take a look at the injury list for both teams, Nelson, Thompson and Beck for Derby. Obviously add Lewis Travis to that. And then for Norwich, you've got Duffy, Diallo, Christengarden, Cordoba, Forsyth, Christian, Slimani and Amawank out as well. And if you look at the recent form of both teams, Norwich City have lost 4 of 5. Derby County have lost 2 of 5. Derby County have drew 3, all 1-1 draws. Norwich City drew 1-1 with Stoke City. But ultimately, it is not great. It is not great. So, in terms of the insights then, Derby County have scored 3 goals in their last 5 matches. They've conceded the most penalties this season with 2, and they haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 5 games. Now, in terms of Norwich City, they've scored 4 in their last 5, haven't kept a clean sheet in 5 games, and haven't won a match in the last 6 attempts. Now, if we do go over and take a look at the league table, both teams languishing near the relegation zone. But the important thing is, and the important thing to know as fans of any football club is, we're a couple of wins away from being a mid-table side, both teams. And that is the interesting part about this, is just how close we are to being an okay side. And that is sort of where the problem is for me. So in terms of Norwich, it's 10 games, 2 wins, 2 draws and 6 defeats. 11 goals scored, 15 conceded with a -4 goal difference and 8 points on the board. For Derby County, it's 10 played, 1 win and 5 draws with 4 defeats their way. 11 goals scored, 16 conceded, -5 on the goal difference. Now, if I remember rightly, Derby County are yet to win at home, but they do have 3 draws in 5 games. Norwich City have lost all 5 of their home games so far this season. In terms of away form, though, Norwich City find themselves in and around those playoff positions with all of their 8 points coming away from home. 2 wins, 2 draws and 1 defeat. 7 goals scored, 6 conceded with a +1 goal difference. And that isn't positive for Derby County in any sense of the imagination. It is actually a huge negative. Now, Derby County and Norwich both sit at the bottom of the form table in the last 5 games. 3 points for Derby and 1 point for Norwich. And in terms of the XG table, Derby County have actually climbed up off the bottom of the XG table for the first time this season. They're now 23rd. Ultimately, in terms of the XG table and stuff like that, we know that Derby have been shit. there's not really a different way to discuss it, really. And John Eustace really is under pressure. And for me, this does become a must-win game. Norwich City, on the other hand, are sitting exactly where they should be, in 20th place. Realistically, they've got 3 less points than they should have, but it is one of those things. Now, if we look at the head-to-head of these two sides, since back in 2010, Derby County have 4 wins. There's 5 draws between the two, and Norwich have 5 wins. Norwich beat Derby controversially last year with a 3-2 victory at Pride Park, with I think all 3 of their goals being controversial. We then went away from home in February under the management of Matt Hamshaw, and Derby County picked up their first point of 2025. And ultimately, Derby County are going to be looking for their first home win of the 2025-26 season when Derby County take on Norwich City at Pride Park. Now, if we do look at the Norwich City squad, there is obviously some big names to look out for. You look at the likes of Josh Sargent, very good player. You've got the former Derby County loanee and Tony Springett. You've got players in midfield like Mark Yondes and Kenny McLean, Jacob Wright, a big money move to Norwich for him. If you look at the transfers they've made this summer, $4.5 million on Papa Diallo, $3 million on Topic, Jeffrey Schlupp on a free transfer, $7 million on Kvista Garden, and they've obviously let some players go as well. Jonathan Rowe went to Marseille for $13 million. I believe that was already agreed last season, though. And then you've got Borja Sainz, who went to FC Porto. And in terms of their manager, Liam Manning, he's won 3 games, drew 2 and lost 7 since taking over at Norwich. That's 12 matches he's been in charge of, the 40-year-old, since leaving Bristol City. And he probably left Bristol City with the thought of going on and being this team that's going to be challenging for promotion. But ultimately, Norwich City aren't doing too great. In terms of the FootMob ratings then, they rank 11th in the league for goals per match, 18th for goals conceded, 20th for clean sheets, 10th for average possession. They do create chances though. They're 9th on the expected goals chart. They're 12th in terms of shots on target and 9th in terms of big chances. They've missed 13 big chances of the 20 that they have created. If we go and look defensively, they are 3rd, 18.9 XG conceded, and that is sort of where Derby County are going to hope that they can finally create some proper chances. Now, this run of fixtures for Derby is probably their best run of fixtures, and ultimately it started off horrific. It's genuinely started off in the worst possible way for Derby, with obviously defeat to Oxford. Now, obviously, in the Derby squad, who are you going to be looking out for if you are a Norwich City fan? Colton Morris, Patrick Agyemang, Ryan Brewster, David Ozo's a quality player, but realistically, you're not looking out for anybody. We have been absolutely dreadful so far this season. Ibu Adams, shadow of his former self. I just don't think Ibu Adams is the player we think he is, or many think he is anyway. Brereton Diaz has been very average. Vyman's been average. Forsyth, hit and miss. Johnston's been hit and miss. And I genuinely believe that there is a chance that on the 8th of November, when Derby County inevitably lose away from home at Blackburn Rovers, that John Eustace will be sacked. Now, for me, if I'm David Clowes, I don't want to wait that long, but we will wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens. So, as I mentioned, Derby County have a what you'd consider a fairly decent run of fixtures. They had Oxford, who was a point behind them, I think. Heading into the game, we lost. We've got Norwich, who sit on the same points as us. There's then QPR, Sheffield United, Hull and Blackburn before we head into that international break, where I think there's going to be some huge changes for Derby County. But you can obviously let me know your thoughts on that one. If you haven't done so already, hit like, hit subscribe and turn on that notification bell. Remember, we will be live at 6 p.m. today on YouTube, Twitch and TikTok to discuss John Eustace and the potential that he could be leaving Derby County. So if you haven't done so already, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll catch you later on.